It's episode 593 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. On today's show, I have Lauren Campbell, host of Locked On Red Sox, to talk about what has gone horribly wrong for the Red Sox this season, where they need to make up for it, and what's going to go on in this weekend series in Arlington. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers and Locked On to the Boston Red Sox. I'm your host of the Locked On Rangers podcast, Bryce Patrick. Joining me today is Lauren Campbell, host of the Locked On Red Sox podcast. We're going to talk about this weekend series and how this season hasn't started either way our teams wanted. But first, thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers and Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day. If you're not already, go ahead and follow on Twitter. Follow me at Bryce Patrick. Follow Lauren Campbell at Lauren, and follow the show at Locked On Rangers and at Locked On Red Sox or _ Red Sox.
LO_Red Sox.
Okay, yeah, and subscribe to both of us on YouTube. I think I might have hit the 800 subscriber threshold mark, whatever. Clearly, Sundowning's still doing super duper well. But Lauren, thank you so much for joining me and saving my voice for half an episode. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great and happy to be here. I think the last time we did a crossover, our teams were in much different positions than they were right now.
Well, I'll say yours was. I won't say that mine was in a different position. Still not the best. But actually, you know what? The Rangers are kind of on the upswing. We're recording this on, what is today? Wednesday, right?
Today is Wednesday. This will go up on Friday before our series. So the Rangers have just absolutely throttled the Royals and then kind of let them get back into it. But they're doing all right. And the Red Sox start the season, who I had ahead of the Yankees. I think I had them fourth in the AL. No, third. Yeah, third in the AL East, whatever division, making the playoffs. And I trusted their starting pitching and their lineup a little bit more. But this has not been a great start. This has been a horrible start for the Boston Red Sox. What has gone wrong just overall at first glance with this team? The biggest glaring issue, which is so surprising to me, is the offense. There's been no offense outside of Devers, Bogarts, and JD Martinez. Now, this is coming off the back of a nice Tuesday win, a lot of offense, 11 hits. Trevor Story has finally looked to find his groove, but it is one game, so we're not going to get too excited. But the offense, which was not supposed to be the problem, is the big problem. And the bullpen, the starting pitchers for the most part have been fine. They're doing everything they can to get this team a win, and the bullpen comes in and just absolutely throws up all over themselves. They don't know how to hold leads. They cannot keep men off base, and it's been a lot of ugly losses and a lot of anger in the first 30 games of the season.
Yeah, so a second baseman not doing well. Trust me, I know what you're talking about. Trevor Story. I was very surprised that he went to Boston. There was a lot of weirdness going on around all of that, including some subplots around Tim Hires, the former Red Sox hitting coach, who's now the Rangers hitting coach. Do you think losing Tim Hires might be part of why this team is struggling offensively? Or do you think it's partially just because of, offense is down in baseball and the baseball seems to be just very horribly dead?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, Hires was around for a while. He was respected in the Red Sox clubhouse. Players really liked him, and he was obviously doing something right with the offense. So I do think it's a little of both, but like you said, seems to be a little more down this year. The baseball's a little bit more dead than they've been in seasons past. So hopefully after Tuesday's nice win over the Braves, the Red Sox can kind of carry that momentum, because they're going to rely on this offense, at least until the trade deadline. If they can't get any bullpen help, this offense is going to be a big reason that the Red Sox either win, get back into the division, or stay hanging out with the Orioles at the bottom of the AL East.
Yeah, this is definitely a team that I thought was built to win. And I'm noticing on this baseball reference page a lack of Chris Sale. What is the deal with Chris Sale? I feel like there's always something going on with him. Does he still have an arm attached?
Thankfully, he does. He suffered a stress fracture in his rib just before the lockout ended. So I guess fortunately, you could say it had nothing to do with his arm.
That's good.
He was supposed to return early June. He suffered what Chaim Bloom said, a personal, non-medical, non-COVID issue. But his timeline still is June, just a little bit later. It said it's not related to his arm or his shoulder. So good news is that his arm is still there and
Good.
that he should be coming back to this rotation we'll say late June. I'm going to say June 20th. That's my date.
Well, that'd be a good date for sure. And the rest of the starting pitching, like you said, is done pretty well. Nathan Eovaldi continues to be just... I always underestimated him. I always did from an outsider, and the more I watch and the more I think, wow, this guy is really one of the better pitchers of baseball. But two other guys in this rotation who have done really well is Michael Wacha, who has a sub 1.5 ERA through 5 starts and is listed on the IL here. And Rich Hill, who I completely missed going to Boston. I mean, I'm just going to assume this guy is going to pitch until he's 50, but he is also on the IL, but also has a sub 3 ERA. What has been the deal with this starting pitching? I know Eovaldi is there, but it looks like Pivetta and Tanner Houck.
Tanner Houck, yep.
Okay, have not had the best starts to their season.
No, Tanner Houck, I feel, will be a good MLB pitcher. I think it's a matter of defining a role for him, because last season he was up and down between Boston and Worcester. I want to say 13 times. I know that sounds aggressive, but he had so many options, and it might have been a little lower, but he did say, like, it gets your mindset a little bit wonky, but you still have to go in just knowing that you're going to play a role. He is supposed to be out of the bullpen now that Garrett Whitlock has slotted into the rotation, but with Rich Hill getting COVID, he went back into the rotation. So who knows what kind of role this guy is going to play. But I do think he will sort it out once he figures out a defined role. Michael Wacha has been incredible. It's a shame that he's on the IL. Hopefully it's just those 15 days. He's been such a pleasant surprise. Nick Pivetta has been a pleasant surprise, but not a pleasant surprise, a surprise in the complete opposite direction of a pleasant surprise. But his last start, he turned everything around. It looked like he had a really, really dominant start. And that's what Red Sox fans saw in his first 5 starts last season. He went 5-0 in his first 5 starts. So hopefully he's kind of worked over that hump. But yeah, then you have Eovaldi just doing absolutely everything he can. I don't think Red Sox fans would have ever thought that his extension looks better than Chris Sale's when the two were signed, which is just silly to me. Like, whoever thought that? And then there's Garrett Whitlock, who's been great, just a great pitcher in general. He's been so wonderful for the Red Sox. And I think he belongs in the bullpen, but he's developed as a starter. They're trying to define a role for him, much like Houck. You have to stick with what you're doing. But overall, going into the season, I was like, starting pitching can be really iffy, especially with Chris Sale starting the season on the IL, James Paxton recovering from Tommy John surgery. But Rich Hill's been a great surprise. Alex Cora said Tuesday that he's been throwing. He has COVID, but he's been throwing. He feels better. So hopefully he can get back into the rotation, not miss a step, because the Red Sox will need their starters to go a little bit longer, save for Eovaldi. He's been wonderful. And continue to provide what they have for this team just a little bit longer into games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a team that I think will turn it around because they're just too talented not to. And, speaking of the offensive struggles, of the guys who have been struggling offensively, I mean, you've got a lot of big bats like Verdugo and Kike Hernandez and Trevor Story who have been struggling offensively. Who are those guys you think is going to turn around first? Who are you most confident in turning around their season, kind of figuring out how to hit with this stupid dead baseball?
I think Alex Verdugo, and I think that comes from a lot of his passion and just his love for the game, his can-do attitude, just kind of always just putting everything he has onto the field. And that's not a knock on Kike Hernandez or Trevor Story by any means, but I think that with Alex Verdugo's work ethic, he'll be the first one to start just hitting the cover off the ball if he can figure out this dead ball era. But he's somebody who I think has a lot more to offer than he has in the last 2 seasons with the Red Sox.
Yeah, he's definitely a good player, and there's a lot of good players on this team. It should be a lot of fun. This series coming up, we'll get into a little bit of how the Rangers are doing. Some former Red Sox, also former Rangers that are now former Red Sox Rangers animated on the Rangers. Get into all of that. But first, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. That's right, the best tasting protein bar. I actually just got a shipment. Got my little fancy Built Bar wrapper here. Some peanut butter brownie and some mint brownie as well. Lauren, what would you say is your favorite Built Bar flavor?
Cookies and cream, hands down.
Oh, fantastic. I just went through I was like 3 or 4 days without my built bar, any Built Bars in the fridge, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just finished up these cookies and cream, I need some more. And I was worried, and I went to the movies yesterday, and I saw it on built.com. It was like, okay, well, your order is fulfilled. And I'm like, but I don't see it there. So I get back from the movie, and all my cold drugs are starting to work. I'm starting to feel better. I come back, and boom, this big old thing of Built Bars is on my doorstep. What a wonderful, wonderful surprise to come on to. If you want to go and check it out, they're the best tasting protein bars. They're healthy for you. They're great. You can go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers and Locked On Red Sox your first listen every single day. For your next listen, make it the Locked On Now podcast. Recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, including us and every other of the 17 other Locked On hosts that I've had on the show for the last couple of weeks, taking fans through the season like no other network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So, Lauren, what questions do you have about this Rangers team? I know a lot of AL East teams don't think a whole lot about the Rangers. They haven't been in contention for quite a while, coming off a truly horrific 2021 season and a very loud but sometimes forgotten splashy offseason because of the 99-day lockout. So what are some of the things you want to know about this Rangers team and Red Sox fans too?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the obvious players on your roster, who is somebody Red Sox fans should have their eye on or kind of be worried about going into the weekend series?
Well, this will be a way out of left field answer, but the best, I'm staking my claim on it. I'm officially starting this claim that the best reliever in baseball is Brock Burke. He is a 25-year-old left-hander who the Rangers acquired from Tampa Bay in the Jerks and Profar trade. If you remember correctly,
Yep.
It was a three-way trade somehow. I still don't know how the Rays got involved, but I'm very thankful that they did because Brock Burke was a guy who I liked a whole lot, was a starting pitcher coming up. In 2020, he had a shoulder injury that I thought was going to basically end his career. He came back in 2021, looked horrible, just absolutely horrible. I thought, all right, well, that sucks. This kid's done. He was only 24 years old. It felt a little early to write him up, but it was just that bad a season. Comes in this year, starts throwing absolute gas, comes out of the pen, is really tall, really lanky, has a really long release point. He's got a 1.62 ERA in 9 games, 16 and 2/3 innings, 26 strikeouts. He's not walking anybody either. Only allowed 1 home run. The guy has been absolutely fantastic as an actual long reliever, as opposed to the guy who we thought was going to be the wrong long reliever, Garrett Richards, who has pitched 8 games and 10 innings. So he's literally gone like 2 innings as his longest. So I don't know why they claimed him to be the long reliever, even though I'm actually pretty sure that Garrett Richards is like the second or third highest paid pitcher on this staff right now.
Oof.
I don't know why. That's more to say about the Rangers not having a lot of older pitchers on the staff than it is about him, but also a little bit about him.
A little bit. I mean, Red Sox fans know a little bit about him as well. He did pitch well out of the bullpen for the Red Sox, but once that sticky stuff ban came down, he was one of the pitchers who was really, really impacted by it. So we totally sympathize with you and the Garrett Richards and wondering, when is this guy going to, do what he's supposed to do while he's here?
Yeah. There wasn't, I didn't have a whole lot of hope on him, which Matt Moore has significantly outperformed him, which Matt Moore has really turned around this year. I was absolutely pulling my hair out because we did the Matt Moore experience several years ago. It was bad. He was bad last year. He had a 6+ ERA, but stayed in the Phillies rotation even though they were in contention. But he has figured out a new grip on his curveball. He has been fantastic. He's still walking a crap ton of batters, 11 in 12 and 2/3 innings, but has a sub-1 ERA and more strikeouts than innings pitched, and is not allowed to home run, which is very concerning. Because not concerning, but I don't know, discombobulating, I should say, because he gave up a lot of those. But another former Red Sox, who's also a former Ranger, who I'm very glad that he's back, and is the ace of this Ranger staff, is Martin Perez. He has been...
Who would have thought?
Fantastic. I am so happy for this guy. He makes me so happy that he's back. Also, totally embarrassing on all of Rangers fans' part. I don't know if Red Sox were told from the start to call him Martin Perez. I believe that's what it is, not Martin Perez. I'm still trying to figure out if that's what it is, because the TV broadcast is calling him Perez, the radio broadcast is calling him Perez, and we called him Perez for the first 6 years he was in Texas. But he has been lights out, has a 2.10 ERA in 6 games, coming off another
great start last night. Gave up 4 runs, but 3 of those were unearned and were given up by the bullpen. Went into the 7th inning. I don't know if he got all the way out of there, but he also absolutely limited the Yankees as well. Limited some pretty good offenses that he's faced. He has just been, I mean, the first couple of starts were a little rough, a little shaky. He wasn't fully healthy going into spring training, but like he has been way more than anything the Rangers could have possibly asked for when they signed him to that 1 year, $4.5 million deal.
And that's a good thing because he struggled with Boston to kind of find the groove and really reach his potential. Maybe it was just a matter of him going back to the Rangers and being comfortable. But what I really liked about Perez while he was here was that no matter what, he was always so optimistic. If he had a bad start, he's right on Twitter being like, we'll get him next time, guys. Like, I'll be better. Very accountable. And just overall, just seemed like a very, very genuine person. I just wish that translated onto the field for the Red Sox more when they really needed him to step up. But I'm really glad to see that he's thriving. And you called him the ace of the staff, that might blow Red Sox fans' minds because he was not that while he was with Boston. But it sounds like the Rangers are kind of having the same issues where you get your starter into it longer into the game, and the bullpen is just kind of like, here you go. Here's your opponents. Here's some runs.
Yeah, it had been a little bit like that at the beginning. The Rangers offense really exploded at the very beginning of the season, and then there was like the next like week it was absolutely dead. The bullpen was horrendous in the very first start of the season, but for the last couple of weeks it's actually been like much better. It's just the hitting hasn't been, coming up quite as big, but they still have, I believe, around a 500 record in the last like 10 days or so where they've looked much better. But yeah, it was supposed to be John Gray that's supposed to be the ace of the staff. They signed him to a big 3-year deal, but he has pitched now. He's avoided, as of this recording at 10:38 a.m. on Wednesday, he has not been placed on the IL. But for his first 2 starts, he had 2 IL stints, and we were a little scared after the third one there's going to be a third IL stint. So actually, I mean the fourth one. The third one was okay, 3 innings I think, but the last one he had another knee issue, had a blister opening day, only went 4 innings. Then had a knee issue that happened apparently on the first pitch of his first game back, and then set him back for a little while. But Dane Dunning has also been very good for this Rangers rotation. Corey Seager is coming off on Wednesday, had a multi-home run game. The whole offense has been kind of hit or miss, but Marcus Semien has been in a rough place. Mitch Garver's on the 10-day IL. People kind of forget about him as like he was when he's healthy, he's one of the best offensive catchers in baseball. But his backup, Jonah Heim, has been incredible as well in 16 games. Still got an OPS over 1,000. He's been absolutely crushing it. Very happy for that guy. Didn't think that he was going to make the opening day roster coming out of camp. But like of the 2 new hitting coaches, their new philosophies hasn't quite worked with everybody. But Jonah Heim is the poster child because that kid is crushing baseball right now.
Yeah, and it gives Rangers fans something to be really optimistic about and something to look forward to in him. And it sounds like the Rangers are going to avoid seeing Nathan Eovaldi. He does pitch Wednesday for the Red Sox. So I think you'll miss him by a day. That'd be my guess if they stick with the 5-day rotation or 5-man rotation. So good news for the Rangers. But is there anyone else in the starting rotation where you look, I know the probable pitchers haven't been announced yet, but is there any specific starter that you think could be dangerous for this Rangers lineup?
Well, Dane Dunning, I briefly touched on. I can't remember when his last start was. I think it was one of the Sunday starts. But he has been much better for the Rangers this season than he was last year. He's a former first-round pick. He's bounced around a couple of different places. I think he was part of the Adam Eaton trade, initially drafted by the Nationals, then was traded to the Rangers in December of 2020 in the Lance Lynn trade. Was pretty solid last year in a really just probably the worst rotation in baseball. Had a little bit of the reins, pulled in on him because he was still trying to build himself up. He was coming off Tommy John surgery, not that far removed. This year, reins are off. He has been let loose. He has been much better. I was a little concerned about some of his walk issues because, he is a guy who has some of the lowest fastball velocity in baseball, and he's only 27 years old. He's not like some old guy out there and he's, thrown 3,000 innings or whatever. Like, he is a control command guy. His strikeouts have been much better. Added a new pitch, a sweeper, which is more of a horizontal slider. Him and John Gray both added that this year. It's been pretty effective for him as a strikeout pitch for a guy who wasn't necessarily thought of as a strikeout pitcher. I think the Red Sox will see him at some point. Big ground ball guy. big glasses pitcher. Love me some glasses pitchers.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, he has been one of the two consistent, reliable starters for the Texas Rangers this season, and they have really needed him to step up, and he has in the last like 3-4 starts.
Yeah, and that's somebody I've had my eye on since I knew the season or the series was starting this week. And one more question for you. I don't want to strain your voice too much. What is the key for the Rangers to win this series? Not necessarily sweep, but win it.
I would say score more runs than the Red Sox. Really, just Corey Seager. He had a really rough road trip. He was starting to look like he was turning around. He absolutely loves hitting at Globe Life Park. Field, excuse me, not park. Ugh, I hate the name of their stupid stadium. I wish we had a thing like Fenway where it's like they're not going to give away the naming rights. But Seager looks like he is on a tear. If Marcus Semien can just get out of this funk, he's not normally a quick starter, but like the Rangers are going to need that, especially with Garver on the IL. Nathaniel Lowe has been inconsistent and would like to see more from him, but really, they just need a little bit more from Marcus Semien, and I think eventually he will give that to him, whether it's this series or the next. Hopefully, facing this really bad Royals team can get his bat warmed up so that he will be nice and hot when he faces the Red Sox this weekend.
See, I'm kind of hoping that with the Braves, even though they're not a bad team, but the Red Sox had really good offensive showing on Tuesday, that maybe that can spark Trevor Story to kind of go into Texas and just hopefully the Red Sox can take this series because they've not won a series since April 13th. I feel like I'm that Titanic gif. It's been 84 years. It's been a very long time for Red Sox fans. So at least the Rangers aren't going through that right now.
Yeah, no. Thankfully they are not. They are going through their own drama and issues, but it's looking like they are what I want them to be this year, as in not a terrible team. That is what I wanted this season, and I think that's what I'm getting.
That's all we want, right, as baseball fans, just for our teams not to be terrible, especially Red Sox and Rangers fans. They're so passionate. They want the best for this team. And after what the Rangers went through last year, I think Rangers fans deserve a better season than last. But correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you absolutely do. I was like, it was real dire. It was the first 100-loss season for the Rangers since the 1970s, literally their second season in Texas. And this is their 50th year in Texas. So yeah, no, it was 100 losses. The Rangers traded my first prospect love, my first true prospect love, Joey Gallo, to the freaking Yankees, and then the Astros were in the World Series. And I told my Braves fans, I'm like, if y'all don't win this series, I might just give up on all of sports, because this is about as badly as I could script it of a year for the Rangers. Thankfully, this year has been much better. Thank God for Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Even if Marcus Semien isn't hitting all that well right now, he is still a very nice man playing some very nice defense, and I'm just very glad that he is a Texas Ranger.
And as baseball fans, we always say it's early. We're probably going to be in June still saying it's early. There's still plenty of time to turn this season around. But I don't know about you, but I am not taking the Red Sox to win the World Series, no matter what the numbers say on BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs in sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports development, including this year's basketball playoffs, which the Celtics are making their run in, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NLF futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, from live betting to the playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. Let's bet online, where the game starts.
So, what are your biggest hopes? What were your hopes for the Red Sox this season? Have your hopes changed after this month? Or are you still kind of like, all right, like, because I don't know about you, but having my team spiral out in the last couple of crazy years of baseball, I've kind of lost or kind of destabilized my rational ability to like think about, like, handle a baseball season. Like, all right, this is what it's supposed to be like in the month of May. This is what it's supposed to be like here. Blah 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 blah. Like, I don't know if that, like, the shortened season and the lockout has also messed up your ability to rationally process baseball as well. Or are you still feeling the same way about the Red Sox as you were before the season?
I still think they can be a contender, and I'm beginning to think that they're exactly where a lot of people put them, and that's a lot of experts and analysts put them as fourth place in the AL East. And it's beginning to look like that's probably where they'll end up. I do think they're much better than the Orioles. I do think that this offense will turn it around, but I also think that it has a lot to do with the trade deadline, and I know that's still months away, But if Chaim Bloom does not go out and get legitimate bullpen help, this team is in trouble for this year. You have some big contracts coming up that they need to figure out. And if they're losing, that's not really appealing, even though this team is built for the future. I think they'll be fantastic in 2023. But I still have hope that they'll be a contender. But they'll, because of the expanded postseason, I think will help the Red Sox more this year than it would have last year or in years past. But I'm still holding on to hope. There's still 130 games left, 132 games left in the season. I'm not about to throw in the towel. Alex Cora has shaved his beard and the Red Sox won. So we are ready to go on a nice run here. And all it starts is with one win to get them going, right? So if they can beat a good team in the Braves, carry that momentum into the weekend series with the Rangers, and then come home and face the Astros, which will be a difficult series, it's going to be okay. I think that the Red Sox are beginning to turn a corner. And like I said, not ready to throw in the towel yet. If it's June and they're still playing the way they have been for most of the season, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I think that is one of the good things about this team. One of the reasons that I think I'm a little higher on them than I was for the Yankees is that, you know, they're young talent. Like, they do still have a lot of young talent. Like, Xander Bogaerts is still under 30. Rafael Devers, I forget, he feels like he's been in the majors forever. He's 25 years old. Verdugo's 26. Like, this is a team with a lot of, like, young, really talented players. And it's not like the starting pitching is, like, ancient or anything. I mean, Nathan Eovaldi's 32, Pavetta's 29, how is Michael Wacha 30? I feel like he's been in the majors for forever. Obviously, all that age is actually coming from Rich Hill that I'm imagining in this Red Sox starting rotation. But yeah, this is a team that's built for the future, and, you know, maybe, I don't know about this year. Definitely not this year, I will say. But next year we might get some Rangers Red Sox playoff series, because I don't think we've ever had a Rangers Red Sox playoff series in franchise history.
That would be a lot of fun. That'd be very, like, aesthetically pleasing for, like, the uniform wise. Those are some nice uniforms.
Yes.
That'd be beautiful. This needs to happen. 2023 Red Sox Rangers, book it.
Oh my gosh, it will be a very stressful and very fun series for sure. Yeah, no, yes. The Rangers have only played, like, I think 4, maybe 5 different teams in the playoffs. They played the Yankees like every single time in the 90s when they won the division and got beat by the stupid Yankees. They played them in the ALCS. They played the Rays. I believe they played the Rays in 2010 and 2011 in those early series. They played literally every single AL East team in the playoffs except for the Red Sox. They even played the Orioles in that one game wild card, and obviously those 2 stupid series in 15 and 16 with the stupid Blue Jays. Well, stupid. I don't hate the Blue Jays anymore. Just torturing you because they're all gone, and I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But yeah, that's the only team the Rangers haven't played in the AL East in the playoffs is the Red Sox. So I'm sure it'll happen in the next couple of years, because this team, I know Boston fans understand what it's like to be in a big market, a team with a lot of expectations, and not want to have any of those long rebuilding seasons, because even one rebuilding season is absolutely torturous. And that's why the Rangers spent $500 million in a week, because they're like, that sucked real bad. The plan was to be contending in 2020, had this new stadium. You know, they brought in a 2-time Cy Young winner for the best reliever in baseball, who has a 102-mile-an-hour cutter for 1 inning of Corey Kluber. Still mad. Keep seeing those stat catch videos.
Oh no!
Oh, look at Emmanuel Clase. He throws a 103-mile-an-hour cutter. Yeah, shut up. I want him back.
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh, that is how I really feel. Really upset that Mansfield, I don't remember. He's from somewhere in Dallas, Corey Kluber, and he pitched 1 inning. And Morgan Price and I, my former co-host, were so excited. Like, the only way this trade goes wrong is if his arm falls off. And his arm fell off. And I was like, well, that sucks. It's like, all right, it's classic. He won't turn into, like, the best reliever in baseball. He did. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I would take that swing 100 times out of 100. A fourth outfielder and a relief prospect for a guy who's won multiple Cy Youngs, like, that's a swing you can't not take.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. I don't think I can add anything else. You were just so passionate about that. Like, I feel that. I felt that in my soul.
Oh, it still brings me so much pain, especially seeing him pitch somewhere else. I'm like, oh, look, you're still pitching somewhere else. You get to have your arm attached. I mean, I don't want his arm to actually be disattached. It's just
right.
It was an awful situation and a real bummer. But, you know,
the Cluebot is back and working somewhere else, and that's fine. And I will maybe eventually get over it when Emmanuel Clase's fastballs or cutters go from 102 to like 98 or something.
Time will tell, right? That's what I always say.
Time will most definitely tell. But any closing thoughts on this weekend series? Rangers, Red Sox, baseball, anything like that?
It's going to be a fun series regardless. I mean, the Red Sox are better than what they are, and I think that this is a good opportunity coming off a series against the Braves. Regardless if they lose the series, you still took one from them, and going into the series against a Rangers team that is under 500, much like the Red Sox. But this is a good time for the Red Sox to start beating up on teams.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the Rangers, while they are improved, I do think they should be worse than the Red Sox this year. This would be a nice series for the Red Sox to have. Also, the Rangers. Honestly, I just want this offense, some of these guys to just start hitting the baseball. I want the baseball to stop being dead. Like, give me some dingers. Even if the Rangers lose, like, all 3 games, like 10-9, I will be happy with that as long as, Dane Dunning doesn't get roughed up too much. Like, just rough up some of the guys in the bullpen that I don't care about as much. But give me some dingers, give me some offense. This should be a very, very fun series. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Thank you all for making us your first listen every single day. On Monday's episode, I'm sure we'll both be talking about this series. Thank you all so much for making this first listen of the day. Like I said, literally 3 seconds ago, but for your second listen, make it Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please just call him Sully. He brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues, both past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Y'all, thank you so much for listening to Locked On Rangers and Locked On Red Sox. Until next time, I'm Bryce Powder. Thank you to Lauren Campbell. Until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.